the News Channel 5 network, this is Morning Line with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris coming to you on a Wednesday. We have a good show on tap. I invite you to join in the conversation as always, as we're going to be talking about opioids and painkillers. You know all about it. The stories continue to be churned out as we talk about the incredible number of overdoses, the incredible number of people that get addicted to these pills, and what the solution is, not just here in Tennessee but across the country. But we're going to focus on Tennessee today, and what makes our conversation today a bit different is, yes, we're going to be talking with two physicians about it, but these two physicians are in a position to do something because they also serve in the Tennessee State Legislature. We have a senator this morning with us and a representative, both who have come up and I guess are co-sponsoring together some new legislation, and I think much more will go on beyond that, but they're in a position to answer a lot of questions and talk to us about it this morning. With us is Senator Steve Dickerson. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Nice to have you on.
Great to be here.
Representative Bryan Terry. Thank you both.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, it's good. Both the anesthesiologists, right?
Exactly.
So you deal with numbing people up and pain issues, and you're very familiar with these types of drugs, I imagine.
That is correct. It's the opioids, and with our bill that we're co-sponsoring, fentanyl and sufentanil. Those are medications that we use basically almost daily.
Absolutely.
Almost daily. All right. Well, and you just mentioned the two drugs, the fentanyl and sufentanil. Is that the fact that we're seeing a lot of the drugs that people are overdosing on being laced now with these very more powerful opioids as opposed to what they think? Is that kind of what's behind and driving this legislation? Talk about what it would do and why you think this is needed.
Yeah, the legislation currently, it's in draft form, but what we're looking at is currently if you have narcotics, for the most part, are Schedule II medications, and if you are selling or have possession with intent to sell or traffic or distribute opioids, it's a Class C felony. And what people don't realize, methamphetamines and cocaine are also Schedule II drugs, but they have an enhancement factor in that they are, depending on how much is trafficked with those two medications or with those two drugs, they're either a Class B or a Class C or a Class A felony. And so what we're looking at doing is placing fentanyl, sufentanil, and those analogs, give them an enhancement factor to increase their penalty from a Class C to either a Class B or a Class A felony.
Okay, so a bigger hammer, Senator, for people caught. But I mean, is that really going to solve the problem?
So, this is such a complex problem, so multifaceted. This is one tool in the armamentarium, I would say. When you think about all the different options we have, I think it's important to distinguish between the people we're going after, the people who are trafficking in large amounts of very potent, very dangerous, highly addictive medications, and people who are using. We sort of bifurcate. We want to enhance penalties on the bad actors. We also, however, it's not part of this bill, but sort of as a general thrust, want to make sure people that are addicted have adequate treatment in the state. And so we want to make sure that folks are not caught under that net. This is going after the bad guys, but patients, people who are suffering, we also want to make sure they have adequate access to medicine, adequate access to treatment and things like that too. And so this is just one tool. It's not a panacea. It's not going to cure the problem, but it just gives us one more option. As I practice in Nashville and around the state, I'm an anesthesiologist, actually subspecialized in chronic pain management. Starting several months ago, we saw a significant uptick in patients whose urine drug screens were showing fentanyl.
Fentanyl, okay.
And they weren't being prescribed fentanyl. So we've actually seen very clear proof, those of us who are practicing, Representative Terry and myself, that people are going out on the streets, they're buying what they think are Percocet, oxycodone, hydrocodone, what have you, and in fact they're counterfeit pills. There are pill mills throughout the state where they bring in 55-gallon drums of fentanyl. Literally, and this stuff.
Drums full of fentanyl pills, or is fentanyl a liquid form?
Liquid. It's
so
a
they
liquid.
bring in the liquid form, and then they manufacture the pills.
Yes,
yes,
they do.
Liquid.
Yep, and this is true throughout the United States.
Yeah,
this is not unique to Tennessee by any means, but they import it oftentimes from China.
Okay.
They will go into a garage somewhere. They'll set up a couple presses. They get the powdery substance that actually makes up most of the pill. I'd call it sort of an inert powder.
That's just a binder, right?
Cornstarch or something like that.
Okay.
And they have someone who literally puts a couple of drops of this
I'm sure it's real scientific, right?
Yeah, I don't think the quality control is
3
there,
drops,
right.
4 drops, whatever, right? Yeah.
And so what you see, and this is hit a little bit in Tennessee, but obviously throughout the nation, is that you'll see this uptick of overdoses in urban areas where someone will come in and literally think it's supposed to be 10 drops a pill, and really it's only supposed to be 2, and so people are getting 5 times the dose of the opiate that they're looking for, and so you'll see a spate of overdoses.
So the pills are actually, being made with more drugs sometimes than the user realizes, but these aren't users necessarily buying what they think is a different opioid and getting fentanyl. Is it? I mean, I assume some of these users would be just fine getting fentanyl, but they want to know that ahead of time so they don't overdose.
Right. After you.
I was going to say, and that's one of the issues that when you look at fentanyl versus Percocet or oxycodone or OxyContin, we often talk in terms of morphine equivalence and how strong a opioid is. And if you look at Percocet or the oxycodone, it's roughly equivalent to morphine in strength. Heroin is 5 times as strong as morphine.
Morphine, okay.
Fentanyl is 100 times. Roughly
it's hard for me to get my hands around that. I mean, I've heard that number 100 times. Because isn't morphine, for years, everyone's heard of morphine. Was that kind of the standard measuring stick for something that's fairly powerful?
Right.
And so fentanyl's 100 times more powerful than morphine.
Correct.
Well, how does anyone who take that live? Well, I mean, if you're on the street popping these pills, why aren't they all just dying? And I know a lot are.
Right. And so a lot of this comes down to sort of the nomenclature and the way you measure it, but fentanyl is administered in micrograms.
Okay, micrograms. So it's much smaller. So it goes further. A whole barrel of that stuff you could make $1 bazillion on, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so the black market, the driving force, the profit is extraordinary in this. And so where there's that opportunity, if you will, there will be someone who tries to fill that void. And so what we've seen is fentanyl, sufentanil, carfentanil, and as Representative Terry started to allude to, fentanyl's 100 times stronger, sufentanil's 1,000 times stronger, carfentanil, I believe, is 10,000 times stronger.
What would you use carfentanil for? I'm just curious in a real therapeutic
so it's not clinically used in the United States. The only time I've known of it being used actually was in Russia a few years ago. There was a movie theater that had been taken over, and there were hostages, and they actually infused, by report, if you read Wikipedia, they actually put carfentanil through the ventilation system and rendered all of the hostage takers unconscious.
Didn't it kill a few of them?
It did, and they actually, I think it got out of control. They didn't have the proper resuscitation equipment, and that's actually how potent carfentanil is. It is so potent, if you get it on your skin, it can cause respiratory arrest. And there was a report, police officer.
I was going to say, that's what.
Right. So he appropriately wore gloves when he went to the crime scene. Apparently, touched his vest, took his gloves off, touched his vest, and fell unconscious.
Yeah, that's a concern for law enforcement.
It is.
Wow.
And that's the issue, with using naloxone, Narcan, which you've heard a lot of, which reverses it. If we give fentanyl or sufentanil during the course of a surgery, and at the end of the surgery when we're waking somebody up, if we can tell the signs that they may have had just a little bit too much, and we can give small doses at a time just to reverse a little bit of that effect to get them back awake. But when you have something on the street, or you have something as powerful as carfentanil, that you don't know how much you've gotten, there are reports out there that they're given multiple shots of it and not be able to reverse it, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I've heard it's gotten that bad. Listen, let's take a break on that note. When we come back, I want to talk more about that, your legislation. We've got some phone calls for you. This is fascinating talking to you guys. This is great. Lawmakers and doctors all in one. It's pretty neat. We'll be back with more of your phone calls and our conversation right after this.